It is Wednesday. It is May the 10th, and you are once again with my man, Steve Autrey and Paul Thompson, Huntersville United Methodist Church and Denver United Methodist Church. Last week, we spent a great deal of time talking about why we're staying United Methodist. I hope that conversation was helpful for you. I think it was helpful for me just to remind myself, this is why I am. So this week we're going to shift and we're going to go back to the Gospel of Matthew, specifically the Sermon on the Mount. And I want to read for you a brief passage, and Steve and I are going to focus on this. We're nearing the end of the Sermon on the Mount, and you may be happy because we've been here a number of weeks. But these are some passages that I think are critical and so important to us. So let's begin with Matthew chapter 7, beginning at verse 13. Jesus says, "Enter through the narrow gate, for the gate is wide and the road is easy that leads to destruction, and there are many who take it. For the gate is narrow and the road is hard that leads to life, and there are few who find it." That narrow gate, Steve, I remember we did a podcast a couple weeks ago, and you talked about Jesus as that gate. Jesus in the Gospel of John says, "I'm the gate." Yep. And I love that image that Jesus himself is the gate. Why would he say that it is hard? Why would he say that it is narrow?
I think he would say it because it's easy to lose our intentionality. And to, I happened to listen to a podcast called BEMA, or BEMA, B-E-M-A, that our youth pastor Ben shared with me, and I found in there an imagery and an illustration that I think is really fascinating about this idea of the narrow way, the pathway getting hard to stay on, and he used the image of an interchange. Now, many times, I know you've gone down to visit people in the hospital in Charlotte at Presbyterian, right? So if you get on 277, 77 South, 277, you have to get off at a particular exit. I can't remember the exit there, but maybe you remember, that if you're not careful, then Independence Boulevard goes off to the left, and then you hang to the right, and when you go around the curve, you have to cross 2 lanes of traffic immediately to get to that exit.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I call it 2A, exit 2A.
Yeah, and if you are not focused and have great intentionality, how easy is it to miss that exit?
And then you get to the end of that,
and you back around.
Then you flip back around, and go back
or if you're not
way.
paying attention, you all of a sudden you're on Independence Boulevard, right?
Yeah.
So I like that image a lot. It made me think of that particular interchange because of the focus that's needed. You know where you need to go, but you have to come at it with great intentionality. If you're just passively
not paying a lot of attention,
you could easily miss that.
Yeah.
And I think
that's a great image, Steve. And I think the idea
that'll preach,
That'll preach. It's the idea that to be a follower of Jesus is an intentional decision every day.
You engage the free will that God has given. God's even helped repair our free will so that we can. And intentionality is required to be a disciple. It's not just drifting through life. It's making decisions that draw us to the way of Jesus.
And I think that when Jesus says that leads to life, I think Jesus is not just talking about the 50-something years I've lived on this earth. He's not just talking about
quality of life, right?
He's talking about the kingdom life.
That is the best way to live your life, and if you do it, it will surpass any other offering out there. And believe there are lots of other offerings out there about what's best for you. Lots of things that will say, this is what will give your life meaning and purpose. This is how you are happy. We have an industry called advertising and marketing that constantly fills our heads with things that that's the point. Here's how you are happy. Here's how you are fulfilled. Here's how you have well-being. You need to look this way, dress this way, own this, and this, and therefore then you will have a good life. And
which is a good segue, because the false prophets of the media, the false prophets of marketers, beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravenous wolves. You will know them by their fruits. Are grapes gathered from thorns or figs from thistles? In the same way, every good tree bears good fruit, but the bad tree bears bad fruit. A good tree cannot bear bad fruit, nor can a bad tree bear good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down, thrown into the fire. Thus you will know them by their fruits.
Well, this is a big deal because we struggle to know who to trust.
Yes.
And Jesus is saying, look, it's not really that hard. Look at their character. This is a big deal because we have come to a place in our world where character doesn't matter. It's like, well, yeah, but can they do their job? I don't care. So what if they're this, or this? They get their job done. I like this or this about them. Yeah, I know I wouldn't ask them to babysit my kids, but yeah, I can overlook that as long as they get the job done. And character to Jesus is essential.
It's
right?
really, again, Jesus would say in somebody, our word is who we are. It is a sense in which that which we produce really is who we are.
Well,
the bad tree cannot bear good fruit.
So don't expect it to. And for instance, as your pastors, if you see something in our life that is off, that should cause you concern. We're not asking you to look too closely.
Yeah.
But if you saw something in our character and who we are that isn't representative of Christ, then that should be a red flag. And that, again, that's a hard thing. But it has to be. That's what Jesus is talking about. Do you see their fruit? And by the way, Paul does, and I think you can connect to this. It's Galatians 3:22. What are the fruit we are to look for?
And I think that's so critical because the good fruit that Jesus talks about, Paul likens and says the fruit of the Spirit: peace, joy, patience, kindness, gentleness,
self-control.
Self-control. He goes on to say, against these things there is no law against. These things are the very fruit of the Spirit.
And that should be what we look for in the people we choose to trust. If you don't see those things in the people you choose to put your trust in, maybe you shouldn't put your trust in them.
And whether you're voting for them, whether you're hiring them, whether you're whatever you're doing. So I think we want to finish up today with gratitude for...
And I want to circle back around just briefly to last week. In our conversations around the United Methodist Church, bishops are getting slammed.
District superintendents too, yeah.
And it's like the bishop's this, or this. I can tell you from my own personal experience, again, another reason I'm choosing to stay United Methodist Church is that when I look at our bishop, I see the fruit of the Spirit. Mm-hmm. When I look at my district superintendent, I see the fruit of the Spirit. Mm-hmm, yeah. And that is, if I didn't, then I may be in another place. But when I look and see that the principal leader for our annual conference is exhibiting the fruit of the Spirit, it gives me courage and hope, and I hope it does you too.
It does. And that's a good closing word. Thank you, Bishop Carter. Thank you, Bishop Dan Bazette. Bishop
Dan Bazette. Man, you've already...
Super Dan Bazette. I've already and your district superintendent.
David Christie.
David Christie. Good men, good folks. Grateful for them. Thank you for your time.